Okay, welcome back to Fast Jet Performance then. My name is Tim Davies, and as you can see, we are back in the attack shack, dropping truth bombs on your personal battlefields, helping you win the wars you are fighting. I've been in a bit of a war. I want to talk to you about it today. We're just going to cover the stuff that I haven't covered for the last couple of months. If you believe the last time I actually made a video on YouTube, it was about 2 months ago, and there's a reason for that. I do apologize. Things have happened, shall we say. Things have happened. So the three main things we're going to talk about today, and we're going to keep it really, really short. I lost a job, okay? I was employed, not employed anymore though, am I? I was involved in a road accident that should have killed me, to be fair, and destroyed a car, a wife's car, in fact. That didn't go down very well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Red Arrow's boss, Dave Montenegro, because I think people are misunderstanding this a little bit. That's fine. We're also going to cover things that I kind of missed out upon, which primarily is the Chinese pilots kind of thing, and guys going across there and training, and why they might like to do so, all right? So yeah, I was working in defense. Now, I don't normally work outside of my own projects, my own businesses. Someone asked me to. I said I will, for a limited period of time, go and have a look, see whether I can add some value there, whether I can drive some change. And I was there for about a couple of months, I think, if anything. And then the company that I was working for decided that my videos on the Royal Air Force were not in line with their their Armed Forces Covenant. That's absolutely fine. They can do that. My actions do have consequences, as do all of ours. I don't have an issue with that company or any of the companies I was working with. Not at all. That is absolutely fair. It was probably some 25-year-old intern, to be fair. And I wasn't going to make another video because, as far as I'm concerned, the Royal Air Force had said mistakes have been made. And when Mike Wigston, the Chief of Air Staff, said mistakes have been made, as far as I was concerned, that was all right. He was going to do something about it, and that was brilliant. And so, as far as I was concerned, he was happy to run some kind of investigation into it, which is being done by the Army. It was to do with the recruitment scandal that I exposed with an email that was sent to me from outside of the military. About the job, by the way, I'm not upset that I've lost the job. I've got other things that I'm doing that I'm really interested in, especially the work in my flight school, helping out people, which has turned into now a bit of a really nice place for those guys to come. It's a bit of a therapy place for those people. So if you're not in there and you want to come in, it's not even think about that, guys. Think about your future mental health. Send me an email, Tim at Fast Jet Performance, whatever. We'll set you up with DCS. We'll make it work for you, okay? And then get you in the skies, and you can learn how to be a fighter pilot, doing all the flying training like we did on these airplanes here. Now, I did lose a job, okay? That was a couple of weeks ago, and again, nothing wrong with the companies, okay? But when you do something like that, it is on your mind. And so what happened, I think, is that I was going through some distraction period, and I did have a road accident that was very serious. Probably should be dead now, in fact. Double airbag deployment, straight into a tree, around about 60 miles an hour. Luckily, well, I don't remember, but it looks like it was a bit of more of a glance, destroyed the front end of the car, ripped the back off, and spun it down the road. The conditions were poor. I was pressing it early morning, as you do, and it was completely and utterly my fault, and I know I was driving fast. But interestingly, I don't remember anything of the 5 seconds before the accident at all. I just remember the airbags going off. And I think that's more to do with like a shock thing. You know, I'm in a corner, I feel the car lifting a bit, and then the next thing I know, the airbag's gone off. If it hasn't happened to you guys, the cabin fills with like white dust straight away, and you're just there thinking, all right, cool. And there's a huge amount of violence after the car spins around, and then it ends up at some jaunty angle, and I climb out, and there's debris everywhere you wouldn't believe. And luckily, the people around this area are fantastic. They all stopped, and they kind of checked me out, and just fantastic. And there's more to it that I could talk about later on. I gave a presentation in my school about that. So that was the accident, and that's primarily, I think, because my mind was on something else. So we talk about distraction in flying. I was distracted in a car, and I'm going right off a vehicle, all right? But I'm not dead, and that's going to upset some people, isn't it? Right, if we go back on the videos that I've made in the past then, we can see that I started making a video about flying training, go woke, go broke. That was out there, wasn't it? And then we made one, British military is wrong about diversity and inclusion. RAF does not want white men. That's factually correct, actually. From the actions in recruitment, it actually stopped the recruitment for white men for a period of time. That's why the investigation is going on. Particularly black people and women, positive discrimination in the Royal Air Force. Factually, that is correct from what we're reading in the email. And then I said the RAF's illegal diversity recruitment campaign, which there's a investigation going on now. I doubt it will conclude before the Chief Air Staff leaves, of course. And then we talked about the Red Arrow's pilots being sacked for inappropriate behaviour. It's interesting, isn't it? We've got another issue with another Red Arrow's pilot, and I think he's a good dude, actually. I quite like him, but I think I'm not saying it's blown out of proportion. Don't take my words the wrong way here, guys, okay? I'm not saying that whatsoever. If this was in any other business, of course, it would be two mutually consenting adults. Yes, fine, but we're going to talk about it in a second. Before that, though, since I made the videos on flying training, Ben Wallace has said now flying training takes up to 8 years to complete. how you're going to get guys joining when they think they're not going to be on the front line for 8 years, I don't know. That's a serious problem. The Chief of Air Staff in front of Sky News said he hoped it would get better. That's the words he used. He hoped he would. So, you know, we can hope all we want, can't we? But I'd rather have someone there that knew about it. And I haven't got a vendetta against him at all. Not whatsoever. I just think the Air Force now is in a very difficult situation and he's at the helm of it. And I believe he's primarily the root cause, along with some other senior officers. But that's another thing. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about China. The issue with China did come up. People wanted me to speak about China and the pilots teaching out in China through the Australian company. Personally, it's not for me. I'm not interested in it. But you have to remember, when you come off an aircraft like this, you have nothing to do. You've got no transferable skills. And what I mean by that is you go into one of three things normally. The airlines, where you do an ATPL and you pay for it yourself. Fair enough. You're a jet mate. Go and learn to fly multis. How hard can it be? Second one is you start a business like I did, or small businesses or whatever, that kind of stuff, sole trader stuff. Or thirdly, you go and teach overseas because they pay you big money. So an ATPL is going to cost you what nowadays? 20 grand? I don't even know what it costs nowadays. In fact, probably a lot more because you've got it at CPL and then you've got to, you could be looking at tens of thousands, couldn't you? 20 grand. What we're talking about, it's up around the 60s, isn't it? You may get some time off, I think, if you're a multis pilot, but jet mates don't tend to. They've got to do the whole thing, I believe. I haven't done it. I don't want to do it. So it probably is. In the comments, tell me how much a CPL is now because I'm interested because it always changes. So if you do that, then obviously you end up being an airline mate and you'll probably never see command if you come out after 20 years in the Air Force because you come out 45 probably and then you enter an airline and fine, sit in the right-hand seat, happy. No worries. A lot of guys do that. Build a business like me. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's hard and everything else and volatile, heavily volatile. And you've missed out 20 years of experience of being in business, which is difficult, and I'm paying for that now. And the last one, of course, is you teach overseas. Where can you teach? Saudi Arabia, yes you can. Good money out there, in fact. Qatar, yes you can. Not the best money, but it's all right. It's Qatar, though. It's a bit dull. UAE, not dull. Money's all right. Yeah, fair play. Money's all right. China. I know a few people out doing the Chinese thing. They seem to be old boys, but there are a few typhoon mates, apparently, that have sort of gone out there, whatever. So younger dudes, I don't know who they are. The thing about it is, you're not over there selling state secrets. What actually happened was this all came out. And when it came out, I thought, MOD, don't do what you're about to do. Don't do it. I know what you're doing and I know why you're doing it. And if you do it, you're going to look like idiots in about 2 weeks' time. It came out on the 18th of October, roughly, that the MOD said, you know, we know there's pilots out there. It was a distraction tactic. And why was it a distraction tactic? Because on the 14th of October, Liz Truss, our Prime Minister at the time, for 44 days, I believe, had just sacked Kwasi Kwarteng, who was our Chancellor. So she sacked him because of his mini-budget thing that he was, mini-budget thing he was going through, which was quite revolutionary and looked to stimulate growth in the country. But of course, he's not a World Economic Forum shill, is he? So therefore, he's not going to stay long, and nor was Liz Truss. So she's a bit of a Thatcherite. So what happened then, a couple of days later, this story came out with the Ministry of Defence saying, we know there's pilots, British pilots, Royal Air Force pilots teaching out in China. And I said, don't do this because I know you know. I know the MOD knew about it, basically, is what it is. Pretty much immediately, the Australian company went, hang on, this is a bit weird because we told you that they're teaching out there and stuff. And we know they're all low-level stuff they're teaching. It's just all kind of, skills, airmanship, captaincy, that kind of stuff. We know about it. Anyway, on the 28th, Liz Truss resigned on the 20th, so that was a bit of a tactic to just take the pressure off her. It didn't work. Liz Truss had to resign 6 days later. And then on the 28th, stories came out about the MOD training, I'll try and put some stuff up here, training Chinese students in Cranwell and Sandhurst, and they'd sent pilots across there before. So it was a distraction thing that's typically thrown out by our government, really, just to take the eyes off and take the pressure off someone that's going through some trouble. That was Liz Truss. Right. Last thing then we're going to really talk about is the red arrows again, and we'll do it briefly. So the issue being, and you'll see it up here now, so you can use BBC's page, you can use any page here, but leading pilots suspended over allegations after conduct. Now, as I said here, and I'm not hitting Dave for this because I like Dave and I pay him due respect, you know what I mean? He's not a bad guy, he's all right. And I know he thinks I brief against the team, and I don't. All I do is make YouTube videos. So if they stop giving me ammunition to it, I wouldn't have anything to make, would I? So stop giving me ammunition, I'll stop making YouTube videos about the team. Just talk about general defence or whatever, or talk about my school, that'd be revolutionary. The problem is, if Dave had just been a squadron mate, and this happened where he's seeing a corporal on the squadron, the boss will probably say, how's the relationship, mate? And he would say, it's looking all right, fine, crack on, mate, it's all right, don't worry about it. because there isn't that much interaction normally between maybe the engineering team and the pilots. We see them and they're on the line, and that's great, but you're not writing reports on them, anything like that. And I don't think Dave was writing reports on this woman, because she would have come under the GENGO, Junior Engineering Officer, and then the SENGO, Senior Engineering Officer, so you'd never have to report on her directly. He reports on the pilots and the team. The problem was, Dave was also seeing another woman at the time. Now again, if this was in a company, he's seeing another woman, and he's having some relationships, and that's what men do until they work things out. The corporal got pregnant. Listen to my language here. The corporal got pregnant. Isn't that awful? She didn't get pregnant. She's a woman, but it takes two, doesn't it? So when I say the woman got pregnant, what I mean is she didn't, it's not her going, oh, I got pregnant by myself. It's like, no, two people happened, but she ended up getting pregnant and then leaving the service. Okay. At the end, it's all in the stories here. Now I knew about this ages ago, but I thought it had been covered. I was quite surprised this happened. It seems, why bring him back now from Qatar when the red's out in Qatar? Why bring him back? It's embarrassing as for a PR thing for the service to bring it back. It's kind of hit some papers out there as well, and it looks really bad. They went on to marry the other woman he was with. You know, so he's obviously cleared up and everything. I don't understand why it's so much big drama, apart from the fact that I did say in one of my previous videos, why didn't Dave take the other two red arrows out that were doing inappropriate behaviour stuff with women and just give them a couple of slaps and say, come on lads, you're part of a bigger system here. You know, buck up with the red arrows, mate. What's going on? But Dave's been there a long time. Makes me quite surprised that Dave didn't just beat the out of some people to square this away early. To let this lapse and go on, I'm finding surprising. Well, the reason he can do that, of course, was because he was doing the same thing. That's the problem with standards. Now remember, this all starts at the top. You set the standard. That's the problem, isn't it? So obviously Dave hadn't set a decent standard for all the team to follow. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. You can say, well, it was a mistake, it's two things happened. You got a boss, unfortunately, you know, sleeping with someone on their command. It's a bad look. We used to run, when I was in, something called the Sun test. How does it look on the front page of the Sun? Pretty bad, actually, mate. Pretty bad, you know what I mean? If it's on the front page of the Sun. That's why you don't do it. I'm sure there's apologetic and everything else, and things will get washed under the carpet, brushed under the carpet and stuff like that. All this stuff makes the Air Force look really bad. Me making a video of it makes the Air Force look really bad, doesn't it? That's not my intention. Guys, that's how I feel about China. Would I have gone out there? Not really for me, but are you going to go into business at 40 to 60 grand a year working for a defense company? Maybe. Or are you going to go to China and make 250,000? That's what jet pilots, that's the thinking between jet pilots. It's like, do I do an ATPL? What do I do here? Or do I just go to China? The other thing, of course, we talked about a little bit was obviously about the reds, standards, responsibilities, that kind of stuff. And obviously the fact that, you know, I lost a job, but fair play to the company, they haven't got to employ me at all. I'm not interested in being a victim like that. You know, I make videos here. They have some kind of tangible effect, gets the message out. Luckily, there's going to be some change within the Royal Air Force. And if I hadn't made a video about what they were doing, discriminating against young white men, if I hadn't made that video, they may well still be discriminating against them, okay, which they obviously were, because they, at one point, they said carry on recruitment for women and BAME only. Now, hopefully they'll sort things out. Hopefully a report will come out and we'll see that change within the service going through. Just because people want quotas or need quotas, you've got to be fair. That's all I'm interested in, is fairness, right? Because that could have been me that didn't get in. I've got a lot of people I trained that never got in, okay? Never got in the military during that period. I can leave it there, guys. Okay, I wish Dave all the best of luck. And the Reds, of course, they're out in Qatar right now. Not an easy time for them, but it will get better. Everything does. When you're going through hell, keep going. That was Churchill's quote, wasn't it? Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. If you want to come do some flying with me in Shadowlands, then Tim at Fast Ship Performance, hit the comments, guys. Tell me whether you think what I'm saying is something that you agree with or not. And also, tell me what else you want to hear in the comments. Try to keep the video short for you, all right? Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.